Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Tengen. Tengen is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. Each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry. Now, today we are lucky enough to have an amazing guest joining us, Erik Tengen, who is the co-founder and chief executive officer at Oki. Hello, Erik. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Barry. My pleasure to be on. I'm feeling fabulous. How are you?
Equally fabulous now. Thank you very much. So thank you so much for taking the time to take time out of your day to speak with us. I would like to begin by talking about who you truly are on a personal level and your amazing journey. But before we do that, would you just mind telling us a little bit about yourself and the company you work at?
About myself, I was born and raised in the southern part of Sweden. I'm the youngest out of three brothers. I was born and raised with a golf club in my hand, and we always used to go skiing. I now am together with my beautiful half Dutch, half Italian wife. We have two amazing little boys, and we live here in Amsterdam. And I have a very different background, but we can get to that later. And maybe that's about me. Oki, what we do is we help revenue managers in hotels to increase their profits with automated and personalized upselling. We are very, very good at delivering the right upsell to the right guest at the right time and for the right price. And we are very good at doing that depending on what the needs are of the guest, depending on where they are in the customer journey. So that with the ethos simply, if you offer something that is relevant, it's an easy experience to purchase and the price makes sense, then the guests will buy it from the hotel where they are going to spend the night. Because guests will always buy things. So we always think the hotel might as well be the one selling it to them.
Perfect. Makes sense, doesn't it? Can I ask, why the name Oki?
It was, I don't know. You know, when we started the business those 9 years ago, you had to have a cool name, and we only came up with really lame names, and we started getting drunk and things like that. And someone talked about an oak, and then someone said put a Y at the end, and we all started smiling and felt Oki sounded nice. But the most annoying part around getting a company name is you had to get a URL. So Oki.nl was available, but Oki.com they wanted something absurd, like $100,000 for that name. But Oki.nl we bought, and do you know what was on that website? It was someone's golden retriever called Oki. So we contacted that guy and we gave him 300 euros. And he's like, I can buy a lot of good dog food for that.
That's one very happy dog, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you're doing your good in the world, getting your domain for yourself and also helping dogs. So it's all about the
And here is your company name you just chose. Sound like a dog's name. That's perfect.
Perfect. So what was your life like prior to starting Oki?
When I was 18, I became a professional poker player did that for 5 years. And I was broke and rich 5 times during those 5 years. And I was in a long-term relationship at the time, but my life at home became really predictable. And I don't know, I thought it sounded very romantic to be a professional poker player. But when you do it online, mainly, it's like you have 2 screens, so you have like 15 tables running. It gets quite boring, that life. And I felt like I needed to leave Sweden. So very spontaneously, I took a chance to this hotel school that I found and did an open day at. And I remember arriving with my luggage, not even knowing that the school I had chosen was right next to the ocean, for example. So it was a very, very spontaneous move.
Oh, nice.
And I arrived there, and all Dutch people, apparently, they don't have gap years. Like in Sweden, you have 1 or 2 gap years. But in Holland, when you're like 16, you just go straight to high school. So I started high school or college as a 23-year-old, having had a shit ton of money. I lost it all 5 times in a row. And then as a 23-year-old, I entered this school. But it turned out to be a very, very nice experience.
So you had some high peaks and low troughs then based on what you're saying. Wow, I bet that shaped you somewhat, didn't it?
Yeah, it made me...
if you had a chance?
I always say I don't regret anything that I do. as long as you learn something from it. I think
that's not a
that's
failure, right? If you learn something from it.
No, no.
Perfect. So, what kind of inspired you to start Oki? And could you just share like the story behind its inception?
So basically, I started this hotel school that took me to my final internship, which was in Kuala Lumpur. And in Kuala Lumpur, because you should know, like every time you talk to a founder who's been doing a business for more than 3 years, probably what he or she is doing at that point in time is not at all how it all started, right? So when I was in KL, I did my internship for a mystery shopping company where I had to get people to go to BMW stores and fake that they were BMW customers. Problem was, company I worked for were paying such shitty salaries that the only people that were willing to do this were like poor students who would never look like they would buy a $100,000 BMW. But anyway, so I was baffled by how a whole industry could base their feedback on such nonsense intelligence, basically. And I met a guy in KL that became a friend of mine, Lars, who's now one of the co-founders, and we just said, you know what, let's develop a tool that enables consumers to give feedback in real time. And then in what industry should we start this in? Well, I had all this experience in network from hotels. So we started that in the hotel industry. That was the inception. But, it was really hard to sell something that didn't have a clear return on investment. So we killed that idea after about 3 years and went into upselling instead. And that was like, I guess, our big pivot in around 2017.
Sorry, was that an easy decision to make after you'd spent so many years doing it? Was it something like you just thought, yes, it's got to happen, or did you and ah and have a bit of turmoil over it?
I had a hard time. You know what I had a really hard time with? I had this freaking passion about these analytical bubbles. Have you seen this Swedish guy? There's a Swedish guy who does a TED Talk. I don't think he's alive anymore. But he's like the most amazing guy talking about statistics and numbers. And he has this chart where you hit play and then the population grows and the numbers get bigger and they move around and shit like that. And I was really passionate about that's how we should display our data for hoteliers. So we spent all this time building this and then showed it to a hotelier. He's like, what the hell is this? I don't understand anything. And then I realized, oh my God, you have to get a very lean product out, get product feedback, user feedback immediately. But we were super naive. I think it's beautiful also in a way. If there are people listening to this who wants to start your own company, think it's a beautiful thing to just go with it and see what happens and burn yourself a few times and just pay attention to it. I guess that's the way to learn.
Perfect, I agree. So can you share like a quote or motto that resonates with you personally and that influences your approach to life and business?
So I love a lot of things about, for example, people like Michael Jordan, Phil Knight, Arnold Schwarzenegger, people that basically have this incredible work ethic. And for example, Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, he got screwed by a company where he was reselling shoes. And he then said, all of the positive things comes from negative outcomes. You cannot be happy without being sad. You cannot be successful without having demise. And so you need to actually embrace every time there is something horrible happening to you or perceived negative. It's a good thing usually because it makes you come out of on the other end stronger. And remember, you cannot have happy and the opposite feeling if you don't have those bad feelings. And I remember I did an all hands coming to work one day because in Amsterdam the weather can be pretty bad sometimes, and I forgot all my winter my outfit for the rain, and I always bike to work. And I was on this uphill on this very big bridge that is right by my house, and it was really windy and it was raining so much that it felt like it was raining from underneath me. And I just felt like that guy on the shrimp boat in Forrest Gump, the guy that has no limbs. And he's screaming like, you shall take me, about the storm. And that's how I feel when I go to work. Then I started screaming on my bike, scream storm, like I'm going to survive this. And I shared it at all hands because I just felt like, it was inspiring to me. I have so much belief and energy and enthusiasm for our business. but what it really inspires me is hearing other people do that. I started listening to a podcast called Founders, where there's a guy who just reads autobiographies, and it's really nice. Very, very motivating for me to hear people like Jordan, etc., talking about those things.
Yeah. So I suppose your catchphrase might be "I'll be back," based on your resilience to failure, like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Without the attempt of trying to sound like it.
If you could describe yourself in 3 words, which words would you choose and why?
Happy, ambitious, and I don't know, maybe like adventurous.
Okay, perfect.
Or maybe spontaneous. Maybe spontaneous is better. Like I spontaneous because I like to do things spontaneous. I fall in love with things very quickly, but I also reject them very quickly if it doesn't.
How does that work in your business? Because I suppose in the role that you do, there needs to be a lot of planning.
That's a problem. That's a problem. Yeah.
How do you balance those two conflicting kind of ideal or seemingly conflicting?
I mean, since I took on the role as CEO, I have to just realize that I cannot be that spontaneous and that out there anymore. A lot of people listen to you, and a lot of the things that you say need to make sense. And it's really, really difficult to work in the company where you have a leader saying, "No, we're going to do this," and then the day after, "Nope, no, we're going to do that." So I have to hold things back and have more conversations and sleep on things, or have good conversations with my wife. It's always very helpful. So I guess just uttering things out of your mouth, kind of like you do with a psychologist. Just say things rather than let them stick in here. And happy because I have a very happy view on life. I do gratefulness meditation every morning, but sometimes I wonder if I even need it, because I really think life is a beautiful thing. And I like to surround myself with people who give me energy, and like a lot of people in my family or people here at the office. And people in my team do.
So that's a good question. So are you the sole inspiration? Are you the one who does everything, or do you get a lot of support and from other people within the team?
Oh, 100%. I barely do anything.
Oh, come on. I'm sure that's not true.
So I don't know. I think I had more need for feeling in control earlier. I think that's but when you're we started the company as 3 founders, and we kind of separated everything into various departments. My thing was always, the selling and the face outwards. I kept this face outwards. I don't sell anymore directly. But no, absolutely. I think the most important thing is hire people who are equally ambitious and passionate, maybe, but far greater than you are at some sort of domain knowledge. And then together you can build a really strong team. And it's all about team. Yeah, how boring to do something on your own, in my opinion.
Okay, perfect. What has been the most unexpected challenge for you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know, man. Like, I think maybe dealing with people. Like, as you grow over, say, 40 employees, HR is a real thing. And it's something first and foremost to realize that you have a lot of people's livelihoods depending on the business, and so on you, which I think is very good. Like, it's very honorable to be able to give that to people. But it's also, if you fail, I take that very seriously. So I think maybe that's has been an unexpected challenge. How to constantly try to be, as a CEO, you have to be there for your investors, your team, your prospects, and your customers all of the time. So it's like it's a very, very, very nice job, and I love it. But it's sometimes it can be daunting that you always have to be there and always bring your A game, especially when you don't feel like you're having a good day necessarily. I think it's just good to maybe be open about that.
Perfect, lovely. And so if you're having that bad day, how do you bring yourself into work and do your A game? Do you have any tips to share that someone's thinking, "Oh, I have the same issue with that. How can I work on that?"
Well, I don't know. Like, I have this personality like a goose, like it drips off of me. But I think, like, I don't know, small things that for me helps is, like, for example, biking to work and biking home. Having a physical exercise is worth a lot. For me, also starting every day with meditation. For me, gratefulness meditation. What I do is I I just meditate on things that will happen in the future. So now I meditate on these 3 big contracts that are going to close, that we are all happy, healthy, and we're going to this amazing holiday. So I'm thinking about that, for example.
Prepared for it.
But I think it can be a very powerful thing to allow yourself to be in peace of mind with who you are, and don't be so stressed. That's another quote, Jeff Bezos quote. You only get stressed because you didn't give yourself the time to prepare for something. If you truly feel like you're prepared for something, you don't need to feel necessarily stressed because you're prepared. So I think that's important.
That's an interesting one, actually. Yeah, now that I think about it. And if you hadn't have said Jeff Bezos said that, you could have claimed that one for yourself. That would have been particularly insightful, wouldn't it? Speaking of inspirations from other sources, are there any books, podcasts, or documentaries that have had a significant impact on your thinking or personal development?
I'm not a book reader. I download a Blink list and then I start to listen to a bunch of Blinks, and then I haven't done that for 6 months, and then I paid for an annual subscription. I tried to cancel it the other day, but I do love the podcast Founders, because you get to listen to these incredible autobiographies. If there was one thing I would do is just find 1 or 2 autobiographies and really practice active listening with them. It's incredible. To me, that's like at the moment the most inspiring thing. And the other thing I'm very passionate about is behavioral science. So like I love to learn more about why are we doing the things that we're doing, and that's just very interesting. So you can see if you can influence other people to make decisions you want them to make, not only in upselling but also in other areas.
So like a mild version of kind of think of like mind control, maybe, sort of in it. An ethical version, obviously that we're promoting here. Well, interesting, but you've learned some amazing things on that journey. Is that something that's really important as a CEO, or is that something that you can use no matter what stage of the ladder you're at?
The first time I used it without realizing was when I was 18 and I just got my driver license and I had to borrow my dad's car. And my dad is like, no, Dad, can I? No. Before I finish my sentence. And then I realized, hey, if I ask at the right time, then my chances are like quadrupling. So I take him when he's tired and is lying on the couch after dinner,
So when his defenses are weak.
Yeah. Exactly. Attack him. So that's what I learned. So that's also behavioral science. Ask things in the right way at the right time can have a very big impact. And it's very similar to when hoteliers should try to upsell to their guests.
Yeah, definitely. And also I imagine that poker is probably similar. You probably learned some mind games using poker. I don't have a poker face. I show my hand easily in whatever I have. But I suppose it's a time of how do you represent or how do you show yourself to other people at the right time to get the maximum results? So has that ever gone awry for you? Have you ever thought, I'm going to try this behavior experiment, and thought, oh well, I won't be doing that one again?
It's interesting you say that. Well, we've done a lot of A/B tests as a business, and then sometimes it goes really bad, but you can always cancel them. But that's also, I think, the point. If you don't dare to have the failures, then you will never have the successes. And the bigger the failures that you have in those tests, the bigger the successes you have when you find the successes, right? So I think that's actually not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
So the honest you don't necessarily hurt someone's feelings, or be really rude about it.
So the ethics comes into play, doesn't it?
I think so.
So another motto for you might be "He who dares wins." So that's an SAS one. So it seems like you've got a lot of mottos that you live by and equally successful in your line of work. So if you were to take or create a tagline or a slogan for Oki in the style of a movie poster, what would it say and what would the imagery be?
First thing that comes to mind is money, but then I'm thinking some Wall Street. No, that's not it. It's maybe a picture of I don't know, something comes to mind with these little rubber ducklings in a huge pool with money. They're floating around there. The title is, I don't know, upsell, but in the font of 300, and then there is the tagline. I have no idea, man. I don't
That's
know.
fine. Don't worry. I told you before the session that I'd throw you some curveballs on that.
And that was a
I've
curveball.
delivered my promise. Yeah. I was hoping you'd say something with an oak. So I was thinking like English.
That's also nice.
Something.
No, but that's really nice. Oaky, and then an oak tree, but the leaves are dollar bills.
Yeah. If I could own the trademark for that, that would be perfect. And you
That's
can come to me
fine.
later. Can you share a surprising aspect about yourself that you've uncovered through the process of building Oki?
From the get-go of when we started the company, I was very, very nervous about talking about the company with people. So I was very afraid that people are going to steal the idea or some stuff like that. And the moment I realized that I could talk about parts of the business with people who were specialists at that part of the business, I became much more open about talking about the company. And I think the success really starts. I'm a big believer in like energies, and you create things by throwing things out there. And by talking about your company, you really throw things out there and you create something out of nothing. So I think that's my biggest learning. The more you talk about something and just create vibrations of what it is that you are trying to do or achieve, the greater the chances are that they will happen.
Sounds good. Could you tell me a bit about, you touched on this earlier when you mentioned that there were three of you as co-founders. Could you just tell us a little bit about the dynamics within your team and about how you navigate the challenges of working together towards a common goal?
Well, I think at the beginning it worked really well. So we were three co-founders doing everything together almost. But as the company grew, we became very slow. We took decisions slowly. We also created an isolated company. That was, I think, the biggest issue because we were on top of our own islands, and although we kind of felt aligned and intertwined at the top, it's very, very different when you have one person at the top, like I am now, overseeing everything and connecting everything, compared to having three people who are kind of defending their own island. So since we changed and put me as CEO, you have to ask the rest of the team if they agree. But I think work is a lot easier now, and we are moving a lot faster. So like if I was to redo it, I think the first couple of years it's fine, but I would have appointed someone as CEO much, much earlier. I think it would have been a better, quicker success for the company.
Yeah, I suppose that's where you need that spontaneity, don't you? You need someone just to say, right, let's make the decision
Let's
now.
just do something.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And thanks for sharing that with us. So also in terms of team building, how do you manage to create a community of like-minded people? And what are the qualities? You mentioned one of them earlier, but what are the qualities you're looking for in team members?
Well, I mean, we have our core values. I think the people that come in here needs to be open, needs to be respectful, needs to be driven, passionate, collaborative, transparent. Very, very key core value for us. Ultimately, when you come in and you meet anyone that is working with Oki, you should feel this like rush of energy. That's what I love, because they're either so passionate or so good at what they're doing, and of course, not everyone has the same personalities, but that's also not the point. But you really feel like you can hold each other accountable to high standards, and that you feel like the person next to you is going to do a really good job and will basically be supporting you if you need any help, selflessly. We've created a very, very, very nice, strong culture amongst the fairly small team that we have of like 50 people. I think it starts with the way that we as founders ran the business. And it has now evolved into how we are all responsible for, first of all, the leadership team hiring the right people, but then also just welcoming people, making them feel inclusive from the very beginning. And like I said, I think selflessly trying to help other people become good at what they do is a really key thing. But then also very important, realizing when people are not cut out for what they're supposed to do, also let them loose early. I think one thing I've learned, firing people, if you do it for the right reasons, you're actually doing them a favor and yourself a favor. I used to think it was the toughest thing in the world to do, but I don't think so anymore.
It's kind of like prolonging the agony, right? If someone's not in the right position.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And is it, as your company's got larger and more successful, is it harder to maintain control of the culture of the company, or is it just as easy as when there's a few people in there?
Well, I think I don't know, but I think we're a good number of people. We're like 50 now, roughly 50. For sure, if you go up to above 100, I would imagine it's a lot harder. Everything gets harder the bigger you get. Everything is bigger. You add more layers. Like, for example, right now, every hire that we do have to talk to me or my co-founder so that we kind of have that last filter on just culture fit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that will work when we are like above 150 people. If you keep doing that, I doubt so, because then you become a bottleneck.
Yeah.
You need to trust other people to do that, which of course is also fine. But no doubt, the more you grow, the harder that is to maintain.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of companies with amazing company culture that have like 800 employees. So like there are playbooks for that. For sure.
So let's imagine you had the power to solve one major problem in the world through your entrepreneurial endeavors. What problem would you choose to solve, and how would you go about solving it?
It would have to be something around sustainability to make sure our beautiful planet remains beautiful for, generations to come, I would say. I don't know exactly what specific problem. I think that would have to be the outcome, so that there would be like a good feeling about it. And what the problem that it would be would just need to be challenging and fun, and something that, what I really love about my job, other than providing value to customers, is to see our team members come in and grow and become really, 10x themselves when they started. That's like one of the best feelings in the world. So if I could do that in any other company, I think I would be a very happy guy.
And if you could swap roles with any other co-founder or entrepreneur for a day, who would it be? What would you hope to learn from the experience?
I could swap with any other co-founder like in the world or whatever. I don't know. I saw a no, I wouldn't want that actually. I was gonna say Bill Gates, because I wanted to see how it is to be inside of his brain. But that guy has so much going on. I think I could be more successful than I am, but I care too much about life. Like I want the balance. I want to be very, very successful, but not at the expense of being a bad husband or a bad father. So I would pick someone definitely that I think have nailed that.
Yeah.
And the problem is, you don't really hear about those people. So that's maybe is like your average Joe who became wealthy, who made an impact, but who also has a very, very happy life with his family.
So that work-life balance is important for you.
Well, yeah, I think so, definitely. But it doesn't mean that I don't work passionately and hard. But I get up, I'm at work every morning at 8. I go home every day at 5. So I spend at least 2-3 hours with my kids before they go to bed. And then if I have to continue working when they're asleep.
Okay, so you balance multiple roles like fatherhood, being a CEO.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And you mentioned getting up. Are you a morning person or are you more of an evening person? When are you at your best?
Morning, for sure.
Morning.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you always been like that, even in your student days?
No, it was since I started having kids. They have no choice.
Yes. So it's more of a habit and necessity than a...
No, but now I love it. Now I love it. So now I get up at around 5 every morning almost.
Yeah. I shouldn't say it's an old age thing as well, but I think as you get older, you kind of appreciate getting up earlier and doing those things in the morning. I say that from a bit of my own experience.
Yeah, same.
So, in your opinion, what are some key qualities or attributes that successful entrepreneurs possess, and how do you embody these qualities in your own journey?
Well, I don't know how. I would imagine that there are many recipes for this, right? But I think you have to have this almost mad will to never give up. I think that's the most important thing. Because if you don't have that conviction that you're never going to stop, then I think the likelihood that you stop is very big. Because it's very difficult. Especially, like there are challenges in every phase, and I still have 15 phases of this company potentially to experience. And there are different challenges in every phase. But in the early days, when you have no money at all for a very, very long time, I've had series of panic attacks, like angel investors that came in, wanted to invest, and then waited until the last day when we had no more money left, and then asked for more money, for more stake of the company. And we were like, screw you. And they end up suing us, like crazy things happen.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So
that's going to be some sleepless nights, isn't it?
Yeah. So like, if you don't have this mad conviction to never give up at that point, then I don't think you will ever make it. So I think that's the number one thing. And then everything else is secondary.
Okay. So this is going to be my final question just before we finish. And you might have just answered it then, which is, but I think I'll give you another opportunity, and Erik, you might have some more advice. So anyone out there who's watching this podcast thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to start my own business, what main piece of advice would you give to them?
It's definitely, this is very easy. And it's to always be yourself. Because a wise person told me once, there are always three types of people. Those that love you, those that don't understand you, and those that don't like you. And if you're someone else, you will always have those same three type of people. So it's more genuine and more easy to just be yourself.
That's a really nice piece of advice. I think hopefully we can all implement that in our lives. And just want to thank you, Erik, once more.
My pleasure.
Thank you again for taking the time to talk with us today. It was a pleasure talking
for somebody. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn for anyone who's might be listening this far into an interview. Maybe it's one person and some district.
Sure it's much more than that, Erik. I'm sure with your sparkling personality, they've been entranced to stay on for the full 34 minutes now. So thank you once again. Really appreciate your time. That was Erik Tengen, co-founder and chief executive officer at Oki.